So this is standard nav, no addition. When I search for dimensions, this is the example we're talking about where you've created a dimension for salespeople, and that has a list of dimension values which are the valid entries for that dimension. What that doesn't do is, if you actually look at the list of salespeople, there are records in this table which don't appear in the list of dimension values, and there's nothing to say in standard nav that they ought to be the same. And if I was to create a new sales person, then I'd have to remember to come and create the corresponding dimension value. So that's the first problem that we're solving. And then the second problem, if you look at customers, a customer can have default dimensions associated with them. To say when we post a transaction, these dimensions must or must not be present, depending on how you set it up. So I might say this customer should have a salesperson code of JR, and it must be the same code, i.e. it must be JR. Or there must be a code, even if it's not JR, or there must be no code at all. But when I create a new customer, I have to remember to come and populate these default dimensions. Right. And if I create a new customer, forget to put the default dimensions in here, and post some history, then the transactions won't have the dimensions associated with them, and it's difficult to go back and put them in retrospectively. The closest you can come in standard nav to getting them populated automatically would be to say, select the salesperson dimension as an example, account type default dimensions. You can say for table 18, which is the customer table, it's mandatory to have a salesperson dimension for customers. In which case, if you forget when you create a new account, at least it will tell you you should have a salesperson dimension, but you haven't got one. Yeah. And that's at the point of coming to post some transaction. And then you'll have to go back to the customer card, fill in the default dimensions, and then post your transaction.
It still doesn't solve the fact that you may have all the salespeople anyway.
Correct, yeah. Yeah, so that's better than nothing. It will stop you posting a transaction without the dimensions, but you'll have to then go and fill in the dimension value and fill in the default dimension as appropriate. So we go to the dimensions list now. There's a couple of new columns. So for the salesperson code, I can say the source table for this dimension is 13, which is the salesperson purchaser table. And I'm going to get the description, the name of the dimension value from field number 2. Then there's a new option. So now here's the list of dimension values already set up. Having first selected the salesperson purchaser table as the source, you can say create dimension values from that source table. Do you want to create dimension values? Yes, please. And that will go and check the salesperson purchaser table and fill in any missing values.
There's only 4 originally.
Yeah. I'll just sign out and back in again, which is one of the requirements, unfortunately, just due to how the events work in NAV. But you only need to do that once you've configured the setup, which table is the source. After that you should be okay. So if I create a new salesperson record, salespeople, let's create GM. Now in standard nav, I need to remember now, I need to go to my salesperson dimension and create a new GM dimension value. But because we've configured that table as the source of values for this dimension, hopefully GM is already in the list, and because field 2 was selected as the field that supplies the name, that's the name of the salesperson from the salesperson card, and that comes through as the name here. So that's the first part. The second part would then be back to the dimensions list. I might now want to say, when I create a customer, I should have a salesperson dimension that matches the salesperson code on the customer card. So this is where you'd go to account type default dimensions, which is the standard behavior, and say for table 18, which is the customer table, then I want to take the correct salesperson dimension value from the salesperson code field. 29 is the salesperson code field. And probably I'd want to configure it that it has to be the same code.
So it would have to match. Does it mandatory mean it's got to have any code?
Yep.
What's it matching with the same code?
So, having selected the salesperson dimension on the dimensions list, I'm now saying for that dimension,
right,
that dimension must be used with customer records. The next two columns are standard, and for the purpose of the addition, or we don't touch those. Then you say get the dimension value that matches this field, i.e. salesperson code, and say that the default dimension is the same code as that salesperson code. Okay, so now I'm going to create a new customer, domestic customer one. And if I have a look at dimensions, now I've got a salesperson default dimension. The code is blank at the moment because I haven't selected a salesperson code on the customer card. So if I just do that, salesperson, so let's say I choose GM as the salesperson code and have a look at dimensions. Now it says we've got a default dimension for this new customer of salesperson GM, and when you post transactions it must be that code, which will prevent you from posting transactions with any other code or no code at all for this customer. And if I was to create a new sales order, then you'd see that flows through now to new documents that we create for the customer. So the intention is it just takes some of the necessity for people to remember business rules when they create new master data and the dimensions that should or shouldn't be present. It does as much of it as we can automatically for them. Because if they've already created a new salesperson and they've got a dimension for salespeople, then why not create the dimension automatically? And if you know that you always want a salesperson dimension associated with customers and you've told the system what the salesperson is, we've got all the information we need to go and create the default dimension as well.